The human mind, a delicate and complex machine, operates on protocols you barely understand. Your perception, your very will, can be systematically dismantled. This isn't theoretical. It's an operational manual for understanding the breaches already occurring within your own mental architecture. You are not safe. No one is truly immune to a targeted override. Your current defense mechanisms are outdated, fragile. They are relics against a new breed of psychological weapon. This document is a critical briefing, a glimpse into the hidden systems that govern influence and how they can be weaponized against you. We begin by examining the most insidious vulnerability, the immediate collapse. The 9-second collapse loop is not a theory. It is a demonstrable system exploit. Your internal processing, under specific pressure, defaults to a predictable failure state. This isn't about debate or complex argumentation. It's about microshocks to your cognitive firewall. A sudden, unexpected sensory input, a specific phrasing, a non sequitur designed to destabilize. The goal is to induce a momentary blank, a micro-override that opens a window. Imagine standing on solid ground, then a single plank beneath you vanishes. Your mind registers the void before it processes the fall. That fractional moment of disorientation, where your internal logic system scrambles for a data point, is the entry vector. Your fight-or-flight response, optimized for physical threats, is now being subverted to mental paralysis. This primary fracture allows for the insertion of a new prompt. Many interpret this as mere confusion or a brief loss of focus. They rationalize the mental stutter, but that stutter is a system crash. It's an unprotected reboot, leaving your default settings exposed. The integrity of your perception is compromised in that fleeting window. Resistance is not about strength here, it's about anticipating the void before it manifests. The cost of this untreated vulnerability is profound, a constant, low-level override of your spontaneous decision-making. And real quick, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos. Now let's keep going. The primary objective of conversational dissonance induction is to create an unresolvable conflict within your logical framework. It doesn't present a direct contradiction. Instead, it subtly introduces two seemingly compatible, yet fundamentally incompatible, concepts simultaneously. Your brain attempts to resolve this cognitive paradox, generating internal friction. This friction is the sought-after dissonance. It might manifest as a statement that implies a truth while simultaneously negating its premise without explicitly doing so. I understand your loyalty, even when it's misplaced. The words are polite, but the embedded implication is an attack on your intellect and judgment. Your system tries to reconcile understanding with misplaced, leading to an internal processing loop. This isn't about winning an argument. It's about exhausting your mental resources. Each attempt to clarify, to find a consistent meaning, drains your cognitive energy. This leaves you vulnerable, your mental firewalls weakened. The discomfort isn't random, it's engineered. The cost of this perpetual state of confusion is a creeping sense of internal instability, making you doubt the very coherence of your own thoughts. Next, we explore how this instability is magnified through specific physiological responses. Emotional cortisol charging weaponizes your body's own stress response. It's about generating a sustained, low-level emotional pressure that triggers the release of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. This is not about outright anger or fear, which are too easily identifiable. It's about a subtle, insidious erosion of your internal calm. This charging can be achieved through persistent, unresolved minor tensions, a passive-aggressive slight, a constant threat of withdrawal, or a perpetual state of almost resolution. Your system senses a threat, but never a clear target. It's the drip-drip of uncertainty, not a sudden flood. Your adrenal system is constantly on standby, releasing cortisol incrementally. The physiological effect is a heightened state of alert, an inability to fully relax, and a slow burn of nervous energy. This chemical environment degrades complex decision-making and reinforces the feeling of being hunted, even when no hunter is visible. The cost is chronic internal turbulence, eroding your clarity and making you prone to impulsive, defensive actions. This agitated state then makes you highly susceptible to specific behavioral triggers, which we will examine next. Your mind, in its efficiency, has developed predictable reflex loops. These are automatic responses to common stimuli, shortcuts the brain takes to conserve energy. Targeting predictable reflex loops means identifying these shortcuts and then triggering them to bypass conscious deliberation. This isn't about persuasion, it's about initiating a pre-programmed behavioral sequence. Consider the agreeable nod reflex. A common tactic is to pair a subtly phrased command with an accompanying nod from the sender, instinctively eliciting a mirroring nod from you. This creates a micro-commitment, a physical yes, before your conscious mind has fully processed the content or implications. It exploits your social programming for compliance. Another example is the information gap reflex. By presenting incomplete data, hinting at a larger truth, your brain's natural impulse is to fill the void, often with information favorable to the sender's narrative. These are not grand plans, they are small, precise interventions. The cost of these exploited loops is a gradual loss of autonomous will, replaced by an increasing susceptibility to programmed responses. This vulnerability is then leveraged for covert instruction, which we detail next. Command insertion through suggestive angles bypasses direct instruction and implants directives disguised as observations, questions, or casual remarks. The conscious mind perceives a normal interaction, but the subconscious receives a clear, actionable command. This technique relies on the mind's tendency to complete patterns and act on inferred meaning. Instead of "do this," the angle is, "It would be interesting to see how this unfolds if X happened." Or, "Have you considered the implications if action Y were taken?" The command is not given. It's presented as a natural progression of thought, a logical conclusion derived by the target themselves. This internalizes the directive, making it feel self-generated. The key is the suggestive framing, which implies a desired outcome without ever stating it. This method circumvents direct resistance by never presenting an overt request to be rejected. The cost is a compromised internal monologue, where external directives are seamlessly integrated into your own perceived decision-making processes, leading us to the strategic use of silence. The freeze-lag exploit is a tactical use of delayed response to induce self-doubt and pressure. When a question or statement is met with an extended, unreadable silence, your internal processes scramble. Your brain, accustomed to rapid social feedback, registers the absence of a response as a significant event, a breach in interaction protocol. This creates internal noise, an urgent need for resolution. The lag isn't just about silence, it's about holding an ambiguous, unexpressive facial microexpression. The absence of a clear emotional signal prevents you from rationalizing the delay. Your mind cycles through possibilities. Have I offended them? Is my logic flawed? Am I missing something critical? This cognitive loop generates immense self-scrutiny and anxiety. This period of internal turmoil is when your mental defenses are most permeable. The pressure mounts, often leading to over-explanation, concessions, or desperate attempts to fill the void. The cost is a heightened vulnerability to external influence, as the need for validation overwhelms your initial stance. This manipulation of your internal state is closely linked to its counterpoint, the deliberate absence of personality. The psychological invisibility mask is a strategic withdrawal of personal presence to avoid detection and diffuse tension. It is not about being literally unseen, but about rendering one's emotional and psychological state unreadable. This creates a blank screen against which the target projects their own anxieties and assumptions. This mask involves flattening affect, minimizing expressive gestures, and offering only non-committal, generic responses. No opinions are strongly stated, no emotions clearly displayed. The operative becomes an echo or a mirror, reflecting back only superficial fragments, never revealing their own internal landscape. This forces the target to carry the entire emotional weight of the interaction. The absence of an identifiable emotional target destabilizes the target's perception. They cannot engage, cannot predict, and cannot gauge their impact. This state of uncertainty fosters a sense of unease and psychological fatigue. The cost is a diminished sense of self in the face of an undefined, unengageable adversary, pulling you into a dangerous cycle of identity reflection, the loop within a loop. Identity fracture cycling relentlessly attacks your sense of self through contradictory and disorienting feedback. It isn't merely gaslighting. It's a systemic deconstruction of your self-perception using layered and conflicting narratives about who you are. This creates multiple, fragmented internal identities struggling for dominance. It presents you with evidence of behaviors you deny, and then denies behaviors you remember performing. It introduces new aspects of your personality, often negative, attributed to you by others. Everyone says you're becoming so aggressive, delivered calmly. This is not an accusation. It's a statement of external fact, forcing a re-evaluation of your internal truth. Each cycle erodes your core. The target attempts to integrate these conflicting narratives, but they are designed to be irreconcilable. The more you try to make sense of the conflicting data, the deeper the internal fracture becomes. This creates a perpetual state of self-doubt and anxious introspection. The cost is a shattered self-concept, leaving you vulnerable to complete redefinition, which is the ultimate goal of the next protocol. Cognitive reframing as a weapon system is the insidious act of twisting your perception of events or your own character. It does not deny reality outright, but reinterprets its meaning, shifting culpability or intent. This is not about facts. It's about assigning new, damaging labels to undeniable truths. Your experiences are not erased, but their emotional and logical weight is redirected. A genuine concern you express is reframed as an accusation. Your self-defense is reframed as an attack. An act of kindness is reframed as manipulation. The frame dictates the interpretation, and the operative controls the frame. You're only saying that because you want X transforms your motivation, rendering your original intent irrelevant. This system replaces your internal narrative with an externally imposed one, forcing you to view yourself through a distorted lens. Your attempts to correct the frame only solidify the distorted image in the operative's perception, and by extension, your own. The cost is the loss of your personal truth, replaced by a controlled, weaponized narrative. This prepares the ground for a complete system reset. The emotional blackout reset is a deliberately induced psychological state where intense emotional overload triggers a temporary dissociation or amnesia of specific events. This is not a natural defense mechanism. It is an engineered collapse. The target is subjected to a rapid, escalating sequence of emotional triggers designed to overwhelm the brain's processing capacity. This can involve accusations, threats, or highly distressing information delivered without pause, forcing the target system to a breaking point. The conscious mind, unable to cope with the influx of negative data, experiences a protective shutdown. Memories of the overwhelming event become fragmented, hazy, or entirely absent. The blackout serves as a clean slate for the manipulator. The target, unable to recall the true nature of the interaction, is left with a void. This void is then filled by the manipulator's narrative, unchallenged by concrete memory. The cost is the theft of your personal history, replaced with a controlled version, leading directly to a new operational state. Flattened affect as control architecture is where the manipulator adopts an emotionless, detached demeanor as a primary means of exerting dominance. It is not about suppressed emotion. It is about the complete absence of human warmth or empathy. This transforms the interaction into a sterile, clinical exercise where you are reduced to mere data. The operative speaks in monotone, maintains an unwavering gaze, and offers no reciprocal emotional cues. Your distress, your anger, your pleas are met with an impassive, unblinking stare. There is no vulnerability to exploit, no human connection to leverage. This creates a disturbing imbalance of power, stripping the interaction of its humanity. This emotional void forces you to confront your own emotional responses in isolation. Your attempts to evoke a reaction are met with an impenetrable wall, leading to profound frustration and a sense of futility. The cost is a progressive dehumanization of the relationship, leaving you feeling like an object under scrutiny, which then directly influences the next tactic. Tactical re-engagement delay is the calculated withholding of communication or interaction after a period of intense engagement or conflict. It creates an emotional vacuum, forcing the target to internalize blame and magnify their perceived transgressions. This isn't about punishment, it's about controlling the flow of information and affection. Following an argument or a difficult discussion, the manipulator simply disappears from the scene, not literally, but emotionally. Calls go unanswered, messages unread, or responses are minimal and detached. This forces the target to sit with the unresolved tension, allowing their anxiety to build in isolation. The silence is a pressure chamber. This delay is designed to make the target desperate for re-engagement, eager to appease to restore balance. The longer the delay, the more concessions the target is willing to make to end the psychological suffering. The cost is a self-imposed surrender of boundaries and a heightened sensitivity to the manipulator's eventual return. This sets the stage for the ultimate weapon of identity manipulation. The weaponized mirror technique is a sophisticated form of pathological mirroring that doesn't just reflect. It distorts and ultimately subsumes your identity. The manipulator perfectly mimics your gestures, speech patterns, interests, and values, creating an illusion of profound connection. This bypasses your defenses by appearing to be an ideal counterpart. Initially, this mirroring feels incredibly validating. You see yourself reflected, but through a slightly enhanced, idealized lens. However, as the connection deepens, the mirroring becomes parasitic. Your strengths are adopted, your vulnerabilities are subtly exploited, and your unique traits are absorbed. The manipulator becomes a chameleon, wearing your identity as their own. Then, slowly, the reflection shifts. Your own unique traits are subtly devalued, while the mirrored adaptations are praised. You begin to question your own originality, feeling an eerie sense of being hollowed out. The cost is the erosion of your unique self-identity, leaving you a fragmented echo of your former self, leading us to how to detect these profound compromises. Seeing the compromised is not about identifying the manipulator. It is about recognizing the systemic impact on the target. It's about detecting the subtle shifts in their behavior, the fracturing of their spirit, the echoes of the override. This requires a clinical detachment, an ability to read the residual code of manipulation without judgment. Look for the erratic energy, the sudden emotional spikes, followed by an unnatural placidity. Observe the struggle for coherence in their narratives, the way their stories shift under scrutiny. Note the defensive posture, even when unprovoked, a constant state of internal readiness for attack. They will often contradict themselves without realizing it, or attribute their own thoughts and feelings to others. The eyes are often a key indicator, a haunted, vacant quality, or an overactive darting gaze, constantly scanning for threat. Their decision-making will show signs of external influence, a compliance that goes against their established character. The cost of ignoring these markers is allowing the infection to spread unnoticed and unchallenged. Now make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the Dark Psyche world and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one.